Two new national polls reveal President Trump has a historically low approval rating ahead of his 100-day milestone. But among Trump supporters, those who voted for him, his numbers are soaring. Look at your screen, 96. Do you regret supporting him? Say no. Let's bring in two voices who understand the pulse of Trump supporters. CNN contributor and New York Post columnist Salena Zito, who is in Ashtabula, Ohio, interviewing Trump voters, and CNN contributor and author of Hillbilly Elegy, J.D. Vance. Salena, we know that you've been punching your train card and driving all over the place once again, up and down the coast and into the heartland. How do you explain the numbers? The historic low, but with, you could argue, unprecedented resolve among the base.
Well, I think what we're seeing is that essentially nothing has changed since November 8th at around midnight, where Trump voters are really happy and very optimistic, and the people that did not vote for him are sort of in shock and can't believe it. People that didn't vote for him still can't believe that Trump supporters are happy and optimistic. You know, in American politics, polling is geography is everything in polling. So if you look at the polling numbers, if you look at the inner cities and then the first ring out, the suburbs, the urban suburbs, he's at about 29% or lower in approval ratings. But if you go into that second and third tier out, the exurbs and the rural areas, his numbers are soaring. Like you said, they're incredibly positive. And
what are they like? I mean, the people that you talk to, what are they really enthusiastic about in these first 100 days, Salena?
They're very optimistic. Well, first of all, they love the Supreme Court pick. They are just incredibly pleased with that. But they're also looking at the way he approaches government, in that they like that he's an outsider, that they like that he's disruptive, they like that he's not doing things the way that they're typically done. They understand that because he's not a politician and because Washington has had, you know, decades and decades of sort of this grind where it's, you know, not a lot of things are getting done, not a lot of legislation is getting done swiftly, they're okay that for now, you know, this can change. You know, all presidents end up, you know, having, you know, a problem with their supporters. But for now, they're fine at the pace in which his legislation is getting done or not getting done.
Well, he wanted to grow. That's one problem, right? And so one of the headlines out of the numbers is he's not expanding the way he wanted to. But in terms of the base, J.D., I was with a group of Salt of the Earth people fighting the opioid epidemic in New Hampshire all weekend long. And that's why they voted for Trump. I was with a bunch of Trump voters this weekend. They said, he said he was going to help us. He hasn't helped us. Where is it? Other people they're on hard times, like a lot of people in this country. And they were like, look, I'm waiting. He said he was going to make my wages higher. I'm waiting on that. If he doesn't deliver, he will lose. Same test for every president, no?
No, absolutely. So I think the thing that we're seeing is that, and it's hard for those of us who obsess over every single day of the news cycle, and obviously it's been a pretty chaotic first 100 days, is that a lot of people are giving him time to see whether they actually, or whether their lives are made better by the Trump presidency. So, you know, we see a lot of chaos and a lot of disruption in Washington. They may be like that, but what they're also really waiting for is whether he makes their particular circumstances better. And a lot of them say, well, maybe it's been chaotic, maybe we like that, maybe we don't. But fundamentally, he just hasn't been in office for long enough for us to see results one way or another.
You know, we have checked in with Trump supporters since before the campaign and during the campaign, well, obviously during the whole presidential election and then during these 100 days. And one of them told us, you know, it's like Christmas every day, they think, because of his executive orders and about the way he speaks about their issues. However, coming up in our 7:30 East Coast hour, we have our latest check-in with some of the diehard Trump supporters. Most people, something like 96% of people who voted for Trump say they would do it again. So no voter's remorse. There was one man, however, on our panel who really believed in him and who does have some regrets.
So he's in the 2%.
He's in the 2%.
Right, because
he's in the 4%, 96%.
Right, except it goes 96-2, and then there was 2, I don't know.
Okay, then he's in the 2%, and I'll play for you how he's feeling today.
I voted to send him to Washington strictly because I thought he would make change. Nobody would push him around. You know, he's used his power against people. I think that's wrong. It's been a disaster, I think, in the first 100 days. And if I were to vote again tomorrow, I would have not voted for him.
So, Selena, he's talking about stylistically. He wished that Mr. Trump were acting differently. Do you hear anything about Twitter or his style when you're out on the road?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, well, first of all, people don't use Twitter the way we do, right? I mean, a lot of people are like, I'm working most of the time, you know, I don't pay attention to that. But when they do catch it, you know, in the news or in the newspaper, no, they don't like that. But in terms of what he's trying to do, again, like I said, they're pretty happy. Also, I should mention that a lot of people think, and I tend to agree with this, that the 100-day thing is sort of this false number. Nobody, you know, even though he has said, you know, on my first 100 days, I'll do this and I'll do that. Yeah. Nobody is holding that number to them. People have this sort of 2-year number in their head, and that seems about, you know, normal.
Right. Well, once again, JD, we're seeing that an issue has been made relevant because the president has made it so. He made the 100-day thing big. And I got to tell you, FDR started the 100-day measure, and he did it because America was in crisis. Government had no confidence among the people, and he wanted to show that he could help when it mattered. I'd say that measure is as, you know, relevant today as ever. But what do you think will be the measuring stick as to whether or not President Trump got it done? Do you think it's the midterms?
Yeah, I think the midterms are going to be the first measuring stick, and then obviously there's going to be another measuring stick in 2020. But the thing that I would encourage folks to think about, and whether Trump voters eventually try to discard him or turn against him, is, are their lives getting better? Are their wages rising? Is the opioid epidemic getting better? Are people feeling generally like their towns and their cities are catching up a little bit to these coastal economic powerhouses? Because that's one of the things that really drove Donald Trump's election, is this regional inequality, this sense that my hometown isn't growing, even though the economy seems to be doing pretty well nationally. And those are the sorts of metrics that get judged in 2- and 4-year timeframes. And so that's why I think, even though you're right that Trump has made the 100-day timeframe an important part, and we know that Donald Trump very often will make something important one day when it suits him and then make it unimportant the next day when it doesn't suit him, I suspect that's going to happen here. And really, a lot of his voters are going to be looking at this in a much longer time frame. The thing that folks would do well to remember is that a lot of the marginal Trump voters, the voters who really gave Trump the margin of victory in Ohio, in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin, they were Obama voters in 2008 and 2012, and they didn't abandon the Democratic Party overnight. They wanted to see whether those policies worked. So they gave him the opportunity. I think they're going to give Trump the same opportunity, but he may not meet the standard, and if he doesn't, the Republicans will pay for it.
But important to remember, he didn't win because he turned Democrats. He won because Clinton didn't get Democrats out in the places she needed to, in the rates that she needed to.
JD, Selena, thank you very much for all of the context. Great to talk to you.